Okay, we are once again in different surroundings. Sorry we're not over at the table, but I've actually got the table set to go eat. Uh, so had to make use of table one way or the other, and food one. So we're over here, and I got my notepad, and we're going to go over the Belt Chronicles. This episode is going to be on the WWF European that debuted in 1997, lasted until 2002. So there's the original version that was on a black strap that Davey Boy Smith, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H had. And that one, so it is 2x5 on your female snaps. It is 2x8 on your male snaps. You have photos of Triple H holding it up that you're looking at right now. You have photos of Shawn Michaels being carried off at WWF's One Night Only pay-per-view, in which they took the belt off of Davey Boy and Shawn won it. And man, you want to talk about heat? That match, because of the finish, had heat. When they're throwing, when the WWF crowd is throwing trash in the ring, like an old NWA crowd would, that's heat. So go back and watch it if you want to watch it. It is on Peacock. WWF One Night Only. But yeah, so you have Shawn being carried off. You can see it is 2x8. And then it has clamshell tooling. And if you look, they had Jim Ross sit down or do a sit-down interview with Davey before the match. And he's got the belt sort of hanging up there, probably over a towel rack or something. And you could see those little parentheses, border things, right past the clamshell tooling that were on the Smoking Skull. J Mar did put those on the first version. He also put them on the second version, and I want to say he put them on the third version too, but we'll get to that. But I'm saying that they are there. And then there's the old J Mar, what we call the business card style property plate, and you'll get a close up of that, what that looks like. And then the backing is black, but if you look at it, you notice there's waves in it. I can't call it croc skin because it doesn't look like croc skin, but you could tell it's not just standard black backing. So we're going to talk about the plates before we go on to version 2. So the plates, just the main plate, we're going to focus on that. The countries that are on the main plate. So you have the left-hand side of the globe, the left column. Vertically going down, you have Greece, Germany, and Switzerland. On the right side, you have Italy, Sweden, and Portugal. And then on the bottom, going from left to right, you have Denmark, Germany, Ireland, England, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and Belgium. And WWF actually owns the original belt. It's in their warehouse. You're seeing a photo of that now. And that, me putting that together and figuring out which, I knew some of the flags, obviously, but not all of them. I felt like if you ever watched The Big Bang Theory, when Sheldon and Amy were doing fun with flags, that just for whatever reason ran in the back of my mind. So I'm glad that was easier than what I thought it was going to be. But the V2, which you see D'Lo Brown holding, is the black strap again. But the only difference I could see is the property plate is different. It has a 98 style property plate that you'd find on the Intercontinental and the Big Eagle. And from what I can tell, there's 3 lines of literature there, so I'm assuming it says European Heavyweight Champion, but don't quote me. But that's just my assumption. Then we move on to the green strap. So I think of D'Lo, X-Pac, and Shane McMahon, and Jeff Jarrett. That is 2x5 on the female end. You see Shane holding it there. That is 2x8 on the male end. You can see Teddy Long holding it as he's getting out of the ring with X-Pac. You have a same property plate as the previous version, but the backing, you'll see Jeff Jarrett holding it as he's won both the Intercontinental and the European. The backing is red croc skin. So we have that, and then we finally move to the scratch logo, which is probably around the longest, if I'm remembering it right. If there's anything I'm forgetting here, I'm sorry. I'm kind of rushed on this one. WWF logo tooling instead of clamshell tooling that runs the perimeter of the strap. Black backing, 2x5 and 2x8, and then you have the newer style J Mar property plate. but I don't know if it says JMar 2K, if it says well, there is a photo of Spike Dudley holding it where you can tell it is a painted in property plate that says 2K. But there must have been another Scratch Logo variant or another Scratch Logo version, because I have a photo of Jericho walking up the ramp with it, and you can see the property plate was left all gold. So there had to be 2 different Scratch Logo variants. And that's pretty much it. This belt was only on TV for 5 years. It wasn't that hard to come up with, just kind of sourcing things on Peacock and whatever. But I'm sorry if this one feels rushed, if I'm kind of phoning it in. It is a work day for me, and I've been dealing with other shit. And speaking of other shit, next week we're going to carve somebody up like a Thanksgiving turkey here. Because there's somebody that I thought was reputable that has pissed me off. And I know if he'd do it to me, he'd do it to somebody else. And we're going to find out next week when I have my case. I have the receipts. I have everything. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. If you like somebody getting what's coming to them, you're going to get that next week. So, because next week was going to be the Belt Chronicles on the NWA tags. I was going to do the brown Mokovich, the blue NWA strap, the black NWA strap, and the red strap US tags that the Midnight had and all them. But this has kind of gotten my undivided attention. And next week, we're going to cover that. Because if you can't tell by my voice, I'm really not too happy with this guy right about now. And he's going to be really unhappy with me next week. I'll see you next week.